What's good, ladies and gentlemen? It's your boy Five Mics, husband, father, educator, writer, MC. The microphone gives me wings. This is the Idea of Manhood podcast reboot preview. Ooh, mad syllables. Uh, the Idea of Manhood podcast reboot preview, and I'm syncing some of my technologies, right? So I can um, record the podcast live on video. So I had the video, right? Then I'm also recording it so I could pull the audio, put that on the different platforms, have the video on fit. Like, ooh, it's crazy. Uh, stuff I probably should have did like 3 years ago, but it's all good. I had some time to get some things together and to really decide if I wanted to continue doing this. But I'm not going to jump into that yet. Um, for those of you that this is not an episode, this is really just testing equipment, so I can go back and see what the sound sounds like, how the quality is. Trying to do this right. Um, this is the Idea of Manhood podcast. And what I just checked, ran through my previous episodes. And my first episode of this podcast was August 13th, 2015, 5 plus years ago. Um, and I won't go into the details. I'll save that for the official, when we come back, official. But I started this podcast really as a dumping ground for a lot of the thoughts that I developed over the years about manhood. And it, I say manhood, but it was really about my journey as a man, and becoming a husband, becoming a father, and recognizing that there weren't a whole lot of you know in 2020, like everybody's talking about manhood, right? Everybody, men or women, like that, like everybody like has an opinion on what it means to be, what men should do, what it means to be a man, let alone as we dive deeper into being a black man in this country in this time right now. When I started the podcast 5 years ago, at least on these kind of platforms, no one was really talking about that. Go back to the podcast came from a poem that I wrote in 2006 called "The Idea of Manhood," and if I put it, I performed it, it's online. Just search for it, whatever. But like that poem came from finding out that my wife and I were having a boy who's now 14. Find out we were having a boy, and just like me trying to connect with other dads or look into literature, see like, yo, what does it mean to be a dad, and like what is this all about, this journey that all new fathers go through, right? And you know I wrote that poem because I was disappointed that there weren't really any, there were even then, especially then, there wasn't really anybody talking about it. So I wrote this poem, The Idea of Manhood, and it kind of just like fueled a lot of the work that I do, like personally, professionally. The conversation that I have with friends, the conversation I have with my family is it's manhood, of course, but I'm raising a son, and a black son in this day and time. It's just the perspectives that one must have to have some of these conversations is it's an idea, right? Like there's nothing that I'm going to land on. I'm not going to end the podcast 30 years from now. I'll be like, and now that is the I like it's just an idea, and it's shifting, and it matters who is telling those stories, right? It matters who is talking about what the idea of manhood is, especially in this time. And so part of what has encouraged me to return back to the podcast is that, you know, um, I'm just seeing and hearing and reading and witnessing a lot of people talk about the idea of manhood in in ways that are not, and only in ways that are deficit, like only like speaking of men as if we are only a drain to the communities that we are in. Speaking of men as if we are only toxic, or we're only predators, or we're only sexist, or we're only homophobic, or we're only focused on ourselves, selfish. Like there's just so many negative narratives that, to be honest, like I'm old enough and mature enough uh, to whittle through those narratives. Like I can duck and dodge, like, oh well, that's not me. So, and they talk about like, oh, you say that that's not me, but I could duck and through. Like I don't have to engage with each and every single one of those that come across my timeline or phone or text or a group that I'm in. I can be like, all right, cool. Um, but I'm thinking about our boys. Like I'm thinking about our boys that can't and don't have the discernment to say like, does that mean I'm like that? Like, am I like that? Like, we know that the images that we see in the media and social and everywhere influence how we think about ourselves, right? Like, we know that. So I think men and women can handle that and deal through that and whittle through that, like I said, but I don't know about our boys and girls. And so the same way, like I've always said, like the same way that we have so many positive and uplifting messages and opportunities for girls, Black girls, especially now with so many Black women doing such amazing things in different industries, there's the same is not available and as easily attainable for Black boys. And so I do this for, like, I do it for them. Like that sounds corny, but that's the truth. Like I do this podcast because, to provide some balance in some of these stories and some of the ways that men are being portrayed. And it's not to defend any crazy or ridiculous behavior. Like I'm mature enough and I'm honest and real enough in my platform to acknowledge like where men, like I don't like doing this whole like Black men need to, white women, Black women need to, like these groupings that people so easily and recklessly utilize on social media to make their points are harmful, in my opinion, and don't really, it makes having conversations and generalizations really easy. And so I think in history, like the things that are easiest are the things that make us the dumbest, and the things that make us like lack um, critical thinking and make us like these broad brushes that we paint with online and in our writing and in our conversations just cause for confusion and cause for people to feel ways that they shouldn't feel, and to do things they shouldn't do in response to all whatever, right? So we're going to talk about, that's what this podcast is about. So for the most part, everything that I bring on here is unscripted. I usually have an outline. I usually don't go by said outline. I'm just speaking. I had had guests like maybe 2 or 3 times in the 5 years, but normally it's just me because I'm selfish and I never have an opportunity. Rarely do I have an opportunity to talk without being interrupted. And so and so real life, like I use this podcast as a way to dump. It's therapy for me, and hopefully it can be a source of therapy and what's the word, like a connection point for other people, some validating for a lot of men that are, that are in, that share different identities that I do, for men that are married, that have children, that are professional, have jobs, that care about their community, that love people, that, you know, if I could be a validating point, then that's what I want to do, because I don't know that I have many others that share a lot of these same values that I do, that could speak on it from a research perspective, from an education perspective, and from a personal perspective. So um, no hype beast here. Like, no, I'm not trying to be on this like, oh, angry. I'm not trying to speak negatively on anybody else's group. I'm not trying to do any of that. Like this is all as positive and appreciative as it can be. I do have times where I rant. Like I said, I don't have many spaces outside of this where I can talk unfiltered without being interrupted. And so sometimes I just talk and people are like, yo, breathe. Like you weren't even breathing. Like you stopped breathing for 30 seconds while you said that rant. So that's what I do here. I apologize for my haircut um, or lack thereof. I haven't had a clipper touch this part of my hair in 7 months. I've been giving myself shape ups. They're relatively, they're just okay. I've also been giving myself temple tape. Like, don't even like, what I'm saying? Like, I'll just come with a hoodie and because my hairline is crazy. But yo, that's it. Just a little preview of what we're gonna be talking about, what we're gonna be doing. It's the Idea of Manhood. I'm Five Mike. So for those that don't know, haven't been here, Five Mike is my moniker. Mike, the father, like husband, Mike, the husband, father, educator, writer, MC. And I always say the microphone gives me wings because it's a level of freedom and comfortability that I have in front of the microphone that is probably not normal for most people. But it frees me. It gives me wings. It makes me feel like I can say and do anything, like I feel powerful when I'm behind the microphone. Always have, even when I'm nervous or scared or whatever. So that's what we're doing. I'll hide y'all later. And yeah, tune in. I don't know when I'm going to start though. Maybe next week. And I'm going to do live. Oh, I'm going to do live episodes on Facebook. I'm going to have them streaming live on Facebook. I'll have the video. You can download it, look at it, YouTube, whatever, whatever. I'll have it on the podcast. I'll have it on different things. So I'll give you all that information later. And then that's that. Hairlines matter. Peace.